Okay, who is losing fans quicker? That's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I find it a very interesting question, and it's either between Sean Strickland or Marlon Vera, okay? Because they have both gone on these Twitter tirades that just seem so anti what their characters are about as they came up and started to accumulate the fan base around them. And quite frankly, I'm sick of the nonsense coming out of both their mouths. I mean, look at just Sean Strickland. Let's start off with him, right? He came up as that anytime, anywhere, classic, hard nut fighter, doesn't care. You know, his whole persona is he doesn't care what you think about him. He's just going to be someone who says what he wants to say and then just moves on with it. He sold himself as that working man sort of style, you know, white t-shirt, blue jeans, Hyundai keys hanging out of his front pocket, and someone who is very, very open about his hatred for influencers online, and someone who just wanted the masses to grow up and be a man, you guys. You gotta be a man, you guys. And that was our Sean Strickland as he was coming up all the way up until his run being a champion. Marlon Vera, okay, while being less wild and less vocal, did come across as quite similar. Just look at his Twitter tag. He's got the fingers right there in it. As his flag, he's got that bit of nationalism with him. He is very, very similar. Someone who is out there and doesn't care what you think about him, but more also, always willing to get into a scrap, always willing to throw hands, and someone who never made excuses. He's had losses in the past, and he would just come back and say, you know, tonight wasn't my night, it was the better man, I'll be back stronger and better. Well, now, both of them have seemed to have gone on a pretty impressive Twitter rant, right, about their recent losses. And Sean Strickland, particularly, seems to go on these daily Twitter meltdowns, almost Ryan Garcia levels, where Marlon Vera seems to believe that Sean O'Malley was absolutely greasing, as wet as a fish, and he's not making any excuses at all. He wants you to know that Marlon Vera wants you to know there are no excuses being made here, but Sean O'Malley was greasing. No excuses, but he was greasing. He's taking it on the chin. It's just unfortunate that he was cheating. God, I love it when fighters do that. So the question is, right, after all this nonsense, yeah, who is losing the fans faster? Because what is happening is we're seeing the downfall of two massive names that MMA fans have sort of tried to prop them up, right? And you might not think that that is such an important question, but them having their fan noise is one of the reasons that they got their title shots in the first place. Yeah, like let's go back. Sean Strickland, yeah, was ranked, I think it was number 7 or something like that, when he got his title shot against Israel Adesanya. And he had a massive, massive fan backing behind him when he came down to Australia, especially during the pre-fight press conference that was meant to be in Israel Adesanya's backyard. Turns out Izzy doesn't have any fans in Australia. Then Sean's first title defense as champion saw him go on an absolute tirade on the microphone at the pre-fight press conference there, and it was the powers that be, that ESPN, that wanted to see Sean Strickland cancelled, but it was his fans that formed this protective shield around him, like they did with Joe Rogan back in the day, and kept him safe from the cancelers over at Disney, because he was seen as one of the blue collars, because he was seen as one of the common men. You know, one of those guys that was notorious for saying, "You'll never see me in a Tesla." But it's not with Sean. It's not just the fact that he went out and bought a Tesla. It's the emotional unloading that we've seen him being doing online. Okay, on Twitter, constantly talking about his mental health, constantly crying. He was crying on the Theo Von podcast. Now, all these things at face value, right? There's nothing wrong with them, okay? There's nothing wrong with a man saying that he needs help and looking around to his community for it. However, there does seem to be a great deal of irony with Sean Strickland. You know, the fact that he sort of built this persona of being a blue-collar, working-class man that goes ahead and says that, you know, he can't be broken by the system. Again, it's the old, just be a man, you guys. But it does seem like the moment that he has gotten a bit of star power around him and a bit of attention, he has used it to air out all of his emotional, dirty laundry and play a bit of the victim card and have a bit of that victim mentality that Sean Strickland is so venomous against online when it comes to other people. And it probably is not sitting well with his entire fan base. And it looks like there's quite a lot of fans out there that are done listening to Strickland talk about being a tough guy on one tweet and then mentally broken on the next one. You know, they've sort of given up on him talking about how he still drives around in his shitty Hyundai while ranting about his emotions in the front seat of a Tesla. Maybe the truth of Sean Strickland is that he is just a bipolar psycho, like in every sense of that description. Maybe he is just a bipolar psycho, doesn't really understand other humans' emotions that well. Anyway, on the flip side of that, you got Marlon Vera, right? Someone who has grown up as a working man, known to put in the hard yards, yet goes into that fight, right? Knowing that when we watch Marlon Vera, he goes into that first fight, he goes into a fight, knowing that he's going to give up the first round, maybe the second round, but he's going to stick around and keep fighting and come back and grind out that fight and never, ever, ever quit. That's Marlon Vera, okay? And then while he's in there with Sean O'Malley, he lets that first round slip him by. Perfectly normal Marlon Vera first round. But then gets clocked in the second and then sort of loses that fire. We don't see him have that in the third, do we? And it just sort of goes on that way for Marlon Vera. And there's his corner telling him. His corner is telling him during the fight that you know they're going to rob you. You know they're going to give this to Sean O'Malley anyway. What kind of defeatist team is that to have in your corner? What kind of coaching and cornering and mental prep, physical work is going on around Marlon Vera in his gym if this is what is coming out in the cage during a championship fight? Like, what are they talking about in the gym when in the third round of a championship fight, when you're down on the cards, they're saying there's no way you're going to win this. They're going to give it anyway to Sean O'Malley. We know the thing is rigged. What kind of defeatist mentality is that to have coming from this hard-working Marlon Vera corner? And then after that, he goes on this Twitter tirade talking about how Sean O'Malley was greasing his hair, how he was as slippery as a fish. He does the classic no excuses and then gives us a bunch of excuses. He never even tried to grab Sean O'Malley, yeah? Like, that knee must have given him tremendous CTE, right? I genuinely hope that he gets over that soon, okay? And then after he never once even tried to grapple with O'Malley, he goes ahead and doubles down on it. And then not only that, he says that if there wasn't a time limit, if this was a street fight, a proper street fight, then he would have killed Sean O'Malley because he knows how much that shot to the liver hurt him. The only saving grace I am seeing for Marlon Vera now is that people are respecting him the sort of way that they're respecting Vettori. You know what I mean? Like, Jesus, that guy can really get beaten up. People are just impressed by how well Marlon Vera can have the shit beaten out of him at this point. Delusion coming out of both teams, both camps. Vera, Strickland, delusion from both of them. So the question is, their stock has plummeted like last month massively. Since the start of the year to where we are now, the fan sentiment for both of them has turned on this. And I guess the question is, whose fall from grace, whose fan backlash is bigger? I would say it's Sean Strickland. There was a moment after that Dricus du Plessis fight where it was arguably a robbery. I gave it to Dricus du Plessis, but it could have gone to Sean Strickland. It was that close. He had the momentum of the fans. He had what was perceived as a robbery against him. He had the UFC almost ignoring his chance for a rematch completely. He could have taken all of that fan sentiment and grown himself to levels almost like Conor McGregor. Seriously. That sort of sentiment, the way that Sean Strickland was coming off a robbery loss, would have put him on levels with Nate Diaz. That kind of level of stardom and die-hard fan base that would have followed him anywhere. Instead, Sean Strickland goes on Twitter and shows the world that he is just a bit of a high school bully. And he's happy to go ahead and tear into anyone, but he cannot handle any pressure on himself. And he loves his Hyundai, but he'll just as quickly jump into a Tesla. It seems like Sean Strickland has lost more fans than Marlon Vera has lost. And it's important because Sean needs the fans backing him to push him towards a title. You can see the way the UFC operates. And if you do not have a fan base behind you, you are not getting a title fight shot. Just ask Bilal Muhammad. So who has lost more fans this year? Sean Strickland, Marlon Vera, or Colby Covington? Let me know down there in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Every single one means so much to small creators like myself. And of course, I will see you all in the next video.